Hello. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to my February update on the new layout. Now let's get started by going into the room and seeing what I've done. All right, what we have here is the baseboard and the background for the first 10 feet of the 20-foot layout. I'm going to just worry about the first 10 feet this year, 2023, and once I get most of this complete, then we'll move on to the remaining 10 feet. Now what I have done here is the basic framework is done. As you can see, backdrop masonite is in place, and I have temporarily clamped the fascia in place. So let me move up forward and we'll show you some more of the details. All right, a little bitty closer look at the layout and the framework. The baseboard is divided into two sections. This section here is 48 inches long, and then the remaining section that has the plywood piece still covering it is about 70 inches long. I did this because the way the hallway is and the doorway coming into this bedroom is situated, I could not get a 10-foot long piece through the doorway without beating things up. So it was easier just to divide things up, create two baseboards, two frameworks, and then bring them in separately. It also made it easier for me to get them mounted to the wall and set up properly, leveled and everything else. So let me get a little bit closer here and show you what I did. As part of the framework, you'll see that I have some notches cut in the stringers there, and those are going to be where I can run the wiring. Now because there is not very much room between the top of my wife's cabinets and the bottom of this, I'm just not going to be able to work in there with the plywood attached to the framework. So what I did is I cut these notches to be able to, where I'll be able to run the wiring. Now in the framework construction itself, I used, it's 1x3 pine, and I attached everything using pocket screws. The basic framework is done with glue and pocket screws at each of the butt joints. The legs are attached, they're not glued but they're screwed, and I used 1¼ inch deck screws. Now one of the things I did to mount this framework to the wall was at the end of this part of the video I will show a picture of a cleat that I mounted to the walls at each of the wall studs. But after I mounted those cleats, I then mounted the fascia, or the background masonite, as you can see back there. I mounted the masonite, and then at the bottom down here I have this angle pieces, and those are 1-inch angle pieces that I mounted and screwed to each one of the cleats, and I used several of these along the wall, and I leveled them off to make it easier for myself. So when I brought the framework in, I could just set them up on top of those angle brackets, and I knew that it would be a level along the wall, and then all I had to do was level it coming out to the front. And where you see the red circle there, sorry for the shaking, red circle there, that is a deck screw, a 1 5/8 inch deck screw that goes into the masonite background and then into the cleat that's mounted to the wall. Now this shows the bottom of the 48-inch section of plywood, and what you see is the dark areas, the hash areas, are where I should not run wires. Those will be attached to wood down here. So any place where there's not the black hash mark, I can run wiring. So I've got a nice clear space where I can run the bus line, the feeder wires, and the turnout motors for the turnouts. And I've got plenty of clearance and plenty of space along here to be able to do all of that work. Now here's a long shot of the first 10 feet of the 20-foot layout. And oh yes, this yellow piece. Yeah, when I first put this together, I started banging my shoulder on the corner because I have a narrow walkway here. So this is just to make sure I don't get all bruised up for the next few weeks. But there's the layout, the beginning, and so I guess the next step will be to get some blue paint and paint the backdrop, and then of course try and figure out what I'm going to do for a layout. Okay, part of my problem is trying to find inspiration for the layout. I live in the town, Barstow, California, and we do not have uh, industry that is served by a railroad. We do have Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad here in town. We also have the Fort Irwin National Training Center, Marine Corps Logistics Base, which has its own small little railroad, Goldstone Deep Space Communication Complex, and then back to Burlington Northern Santa Fe. Burlington Northern Santa Fe here has a very large classification yard, and it really doesn't serve any industry. Probably the only real thing you could call industry, or what it services, is a small propane exchange tank on the far east end of the yard, and that's really it. So it's very hard for me to draw any inspiration from anything local. As I move forward with the layout, these are some of the things I do know and some of the things that I'm really considering. The layout will be HO standard gauge and HO N30 narrow gauge. There will be a combination of the two. Now, they don't necessarily have to meet up with each other or interact, but they should be servicing the same industries. The era should be between 1950 and 1956. I'd like to be able to run some steam and some very early diesel locomotives. What I'd really like to have is as many industries as physically possible that fit in the 20 feet. For example, in this first 10 feet, I could probably have a log mill that is fed by the narrow gauge. The narrow gauge would bring the logs in, and the log mill would cut the lumber, and then the lumber would be transferred onto standard gauge flat cars, and the standard gauge railroad would move it out. Another option would be a coal operation. One end could be a coal mine, and I could also have some sort of industry or industries that use the coal on this 10-foot section. Now, I'd also consider a engine facility, especially for the narrow gauge. That would be kind of interesting to have a small engine facility for the narrow gauge operation. I'm not sure if I'd be able to fit a nice engine facility into the standard gauge one or not, but that's an option. Now, I have always wanted to build a turntable. Now, it would be really nice and easy to do with the narrow gauge railroad. A nice little 6-inch, maybe even smaller turntable. That would be kind of fun. A gallows type turntable would be kind of fun to build. Now, passenger operations would be kind of fun, and it's not out of the question, but it really does have to make sense. Now, one of the things too is I have a doodlebug, and I've always loved doodlebugs, and I could probably figure out a way to incorporate the doodlebug and a passenger operation into this, and that would be fun, and we'll see what happens. Of course, the big question, DC or DCC? Well, what I'd really like to do, and what I'm pretty sure I'm going to set this is going to be it, is that the standard gauge HO will be DCC. And I will probably use an Arduino-based DCC EX system, which I already have operating, and I like the way it works. So I think I'll continue with that with the standard gauge. Now the narrow gauge, because of the size of the locomotives, they're small, be kind of hard to fit a good DCC decoder into those things. I think with them I'll stick with straight DC, and this could be a possibility where I can go away from the norm and go towards some kind of a Arduino-based DC controller. We'll see what I can do in the future. Well, I think I'll end this video here. I know not much has been done, but hopefully in the next few days I can figure out some more ideas and think about what I want to do, where I can draw some inspiration. But one of the things I'd like to do is, for those of you that are watching, and thank you very much for watching and sticking with this, if you've got some ideas or something you'd like to see, something that you've always wanted to do but didn't have the room to do it or didn't have the time to do it or weren't too sure about it, let me know. I'm open to all ideas and all suggestions. Right now it remains a blank canvas, and I'll take any hints, tips, ideas. If you've seen a plan that you like, let me know. And I do appreciate it. Again, thanks for watching, and see you next time. And hopefully it won't be very long. Thanks, and bye.